Good morning, everybody, and Happy New Year to all of you. This is your host, iPhone Blog Auto Tuber, and this video I want to talk about the long-term review of XUV300 Petrol, almost 13,000 kilometers. Now, previously in all of my videos, I've shown exactly the dimension of the car and overall the car, the way it moves, the way it functions. But today, after a long review of almost 13,000 kilometers, I thought of showing some of unbelievable things which I've experienced with this particular car, and of course a lot of things which I did not share initially when I was making a video. And to start a video, I'm just showing clips of the car, the way it looks. This is DSAT Silver, W4, W6, W4 model petrol, and it is W6, the BS6 compliant as well. So this is how exactly the car looks from all its proportion, an absolute macho look. And of course, this is a side angle of the car. You have R16 normal wheels with this particular car. And moving on towards the back end of the car, which is nicely designed. I may say this is a little disproportionate initially because the way it has been designed is somewhat to make it under sub 4 meter compact SUV. Alright, so let's hop in. We'll talk about the luggage, the boot, the space, all 4 important points, and the 4 let's say the points which we have not covered with the help of XUV300 Petrol 13,000 kilometer review. Let's get started. Okay, so let's re-welcome all of you. You have just seen the overall vehicle dimensions from the front, from the back, from overall side angles, and this is XUV300 Petrol W4 variant, almost 13,000 review experience, and I want to share a lot of important things. Now, before we start, a quick Happy New Year to all of you, and a quick question which I think everybody wants to know is, why should I choose XUV300? And probably with the help of this video, I may be able to answer why you should go for XUV300 Petrol. Now, there are a lot of cars under sub 4 meter compact SUV in right now. You have Sonet, you have Kaiga, you have Brezza, you have Venue, you have Ford EcoSport, you have Maruti Brezza, you have Toyota Brezza, and you have XUV300. Now, this is the only car in this entire sub 4 compact segment which happens to have the highest amount of power. So let's say 110 bhp, 200 Nm of torque, all 4 disc brakes, the highest crash test for adults and child in its segment of SUV sub 4 compact meter car. That's one of the reasons I think you should consider buying XUV300 Petrol, because this gives a real value for money proportion to us in its driving dynamics and the overall feel. Now, with the help of this video, I've got 4 important points to share, which will definitely blow away all of your queries in case if you haven't, you've been thinking about it. The first thing first, I want to talk about the back space, number 1. Number 2, I want to talk about some of the features which you get with XUV300 base petrol variant. Number 3, I want to talk about overall advantages and the acceleration which you have with this particular car. Now, let me go ahead with the front desk first. Please focus on the front desk here. Now, if you see the front desk of this wonderful car, it is not cheesy at all. It looks beautiful. It is a kind of a hard plastic, but then of course the material is absolutely phenomenal. Moving on, if you see the steering wheel, it is nicely proportioned, well designed, and it doesn't feel kind of extremely let's say light when you drive. Yes, it does sometimes, but then it weighs up nicely whenever you go 70-80 plus kilometers. Moving on, you have a nice little touch to its development. For example, look at the gear knob. It is beautifully designed. Look at the overall fit and finish of the car. It's nicely maintained, well proportioned. The only drawback I think I have with the car is the overall this central AC console, and of course the overall front this design, because this looks a little old given my books. Now, please focus over here. With this wonderful car, what you get is 2 beautiful options. Number 1 is you have this tire positioning system. So with the help of tire positioning system, what happens is when you move your acceleration, so-called your steering from left to right, it shows on a screen where exactly your tires are moving. Now, that really helps a lot when you're parking in dark conditions. Number 1. Number 2, you have 3 different gimmicks which can be called as driving modes, and those are, please focus here. We have over here, for example, the driving dynamics over here, trip and the set button. Now, with the help of this particular option and this one here, you can set up normal, sport, and of course the comfort mode. In comfort mode, you happen to have very light, normal, little heavy, and sport will give you a lot of confidence on the highways. Okay, now let me give you a real picture about how the overall positioning of this wonderful car is. the very important thing, and I keep saying in all my videos, is the overall security. So when I open my door like this and close it, you get a nice thud, which means the car is macho built. You will definitely feel the power, the overall fitment, the way it drives on the road presence, because all in all the car has got a steel built, I must say, under the sub 4 compact SUV department. Another important option I want to talk about is the things what you don't get now in XUV300 petrols. For example, over here, this is a very important segment in my books, because normally what happens is when you have armrest like this, you can relax on the long journeys. But now, as Mahindra has changed the overall dynamics, you do not get this option. All right, number one. Number two, the positioning of the driver's seat. So it may not give you, let's say, adjustment system for up and down in the base variant, but when you sit here and if you see the front bonnet, there are no objections when it comes to seeing the bonnet of the car. So there is no hiccup whatsoever while driving a car while sitting on the front seat. Let me go ahead and now give you a little bit of information about the back side. Give me a moment, please. Okay, so I'm at the backside of XUV300 base variant petrol, which is a very popular segment of Mahindra. The biggest question people have been asking to me in the video review is this sufficient for 3 healthy 6-footers if you're talking about the space in the overall department? So I happen to have my height of almost 5'11", and I have got my seat just like that. But over here, when I sit back and relax, I get ample knee room for my height. So even if you are 6 feet plus, and if you're not way too bulky, let's say way too heavy, then you should not have any issues with sitting and the comfort of this particular car. But probably, yeah, if you are 6'3" and 6'4", then you may have little difficulty overall when it comes to handling the overall size and the height of the car. So in my books, the overall comfort with XUV300 looks absolutely spot on, and at no point of time will ever have any hiccups whatsoever, because we are talking about 2600, widest wheelbase in the sub 4 compact SUV. Now, another important thing I want to highlight about this wonderful car is nowadays the cost cutting of Mahindra is getting really worse. So initially when we bought the first variant of XUV300 petrol, we had a nice headrest over here and there. But now Mahindra has reduced these options, which in my book is going to be a big disappointment, because ultimately if you want to buy a car, you want to have a nice comfortable feeling within a space and the cabin. So that's a little bit about overall space which we have in Mahindra XUV300 petrol. Moving on, we'll go back to the back side. We'll pause it for a moment. Okay, so here comes the boot space of XUV300. It has almost 250 to 360 liters space, which in my book is very less. And this is one of the drawbacks we have with XUV300 petrol, because you cannot carry more than 2 full suitcases if you have 3 or 4 family members in the car traveling on a long highway. But then if you're traveling very rarely, then obviously this should not become a challenge. All right, so the last segment I want to talk about before I take a drive and tell you the overall driving dynamics is the mileage. Now, the mileage of this car is 13.8 in the longer journey of Highway Plus City with AC on. But nowadays, as I've crossed almost 12,000 kilometers, which is 12,525, it is giving 12.6, and this includes sometimes rough driving of mine as well. So obviously that's one of the drawbacks. But overall, the mileage which I've done, let's say 2 to 3 highway journeys from Nagpur to Pune, Pune to Nagpur, and I drove overall 90 to 100, it gave me maximum was 18.4, which is a monumental achievement for a car of this fantastic price. Okay, so let's drive this wonderful car and tell you what features you get and how the overall driving dynamics feels. Now, overall, if you see this car, the way it moves, it is absolutely a brilliant machine which Mahindra has given to all of us. And I must tell you that my experience as an owner of this wonderful car has been absolutely phenomenal. So I never felt at any point of time with this wonderful car that this car would give me a bad experience, or an experience which in my books would be of let's say dibbly-dobbly. So if you see the entire patch of this wonderful terrain, it is a bumpy one, and the suspension of this car is absolutely flawless. You do not feel any bump coming inside the car, because the overall suspension is built on a little stiffer variant with Mahindra XUV300. So the early acceleration feel of this car is somewhat lazy if you are under 1500 RPM, but if you cruise above 1500 RPM, there is no issue of tractability or let's say any challenges whatsoever. We'll pause it for a moment. Okay, so let's take it a drive on the highway post 12,500 kilometer. Let me tell you what little things I've experienced and how it feels on the highway. And of course, we've just tested the bad tarmac, and this is a fantastic tarmac. Okay, on the highway, please. So initially, if you talk about the acceleration of this wonderful car, it may not give you a very powerful feeling if you are under 1500 RPM. But if the same goes above, then you get immense power. I keep saying in all my videos that this can even drag an elephant if you apply proper driving dynamics. So the car is fantastic. Acceleration brake, it has its advantage with the mid-range. The mid-range of this car is absolutely, humongous. The word is humongous because at no point you feel that you're driving a car which is less than 12 to 13 lakh rupees. Even this is a base variant. So acceleration in my books absolutely awesome. And moving on, if we talk about the overall road presence and the visibility of the car, I think it's roomy, it's spacious, no objections from my overall experience. And I would always recommend people, if they want to buy a first car and that happens to be SUV, please go ahead, take your neck out and buy XUV300, because XUV300 gives immense pleasure, immense joy when you drive on the highway. And with this note, I want to say thank you all for tuning in. I hope this was useful. Let me repeat, this is India's safest car with 4-disc brake. It has fantastic mileage of almost 12.8 to 13.8 in the city, depends how you drive, 18.4 on the highway. And moving on, if you see the entire experience of the car, I think 5-star, the safest child security, the safest adult protection, beautiful mileage, great build, looks dashing. And the only two drawbacks according to me in this car is the headlights which you get from Mahindra in the base variant is poor. Number one. Number two is the luggage space. If you're traveling very frequently on the highway and if you happen to have 4 or 5 people, then trust me, this may give you a little hiccup. But on the entire package, I think hats off to Mahindra for making such a phenomenal car, and this is going to give Mahindra's name in the long run. So with this note, thank you so much, and do subscribe.